This story that I want to tell you tonight is a little different from the other stories. The life of the main character of this story has had many ups and downs. And I must also say that this case attracted the attention of many, including the media. Hello, welcome to the True Crime Channel. Lorena Lourdes Gallo was born on June 18, 1970 in Buque, Ecuador. When she was a little girl, her family migrated to Venezuela. She lived with her parents in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, until she was 18. After finishing school, she traveled to the United States. Lorena became very excited about the opportunities created for her by migration and quickly began to plan for her future. One of her mother's friends, a woman named Hannah, gave Lorena a place to stay. Very soon, Lorena became a member of their family. Hannah was a very strict woman. You could even see this strictness in the upbringing of her children. Lorena had to obey all the rules of behavior that were set in their home. In addition, she was responsible for taking care of Hannah's younger son. Despite all this hardship, Lorena was determined to stay in America. For this, she had to settle her residency status. With Hannah's help, she succeeded in obtaining a student visa that allowed her permanent residency. But after a while, she decided to learn the job of manicure. This decision was not accidental, because Hannah herself had a beauty salon, and Lorena also started from there to learn the skill. She had taken her family as her role model, a family that, with much effort, earned their living in a correct and honest way. After months of hard work in the beauty salon, finally Lorena found an opportunity to rest a little and have fun. She spent most of her days with her friends and talked about the places they planned to go at night. When night came, everyone was excited to get ready to go out and enjoy the night. Meanwhile, Hannah told Lorena exactly how she should behave in the place they were going. She even reminded her to return home at the appointed time. But Lorena was very happy that she wanted to enjoy that night. She was very excited, but she didn't know that this night would change the course of her life forever. When they reached the intended place, Lorena was completely shocked. For a long time she had imagined this night in her mind, thinking what it could be like, but when she entered, everything was beyond her expectation. Everything was very beautiful and attractive. She was speechless. Very soon she began thinking whether she could find the man of her dreams here. She never thought fate would answer this thought so quickly. While she was chatting and having fun with her friends, a young man came toward her and tried to attract her attention. When she looked, she noticed how handsome and tall he was. It seemed she fell in love at first sight. This stranger was a young man named John Wayne Bobbitt. John was born on March 23, 1967. He was from Buffalo, New York, when he was only 3 years old. He and his two brothers were placed under the care of his aunt and uncle. The reason was that his mother had suffered a nervous breakdown and emotionally and mentally could not take care of her children. Naturally, John was too young to remember these events, but surely they affected his life. John's aunt and uncle were very religious people. They attended religious ceremonies every day and always tried to do good things. Of course, like every other family, sometimes they had arguments and differences of opinion, but in general their relationship was stable and strong. When John reached adolescence, he decided to join the army and enlisted in the Marines. The training, discipline, lifestyle, and challenges he faced shaped this young man's character. That night when John saw Lorena, he was astonished by her special and different beauty. Just like a military operation, he decided to reach his target. They spent the rest of the night together. John began telling her about his past, about his teenage years, and his time studying in military academy. Then Lorena told her own life story, her childhood and her migration to the United States. After several hours, it was time to say goodbye. Before leaving, John took Lorena's phone number and was determined to continue their relationship. When Lorena returned home, she immediately went to bed. While lying down, she kept thinking about John. She was very worried that maybe John would not call her again. But contrary to her expectation, the next day John called her. In that phone call, John clearly said that he wanted their relationship to continue, and even suggested that they meet again to get to know each other more. Lorena explained that she had to follow certain rules, including that she could not go out alone. This was not a problem for John at all. In their later meetings, one of Lorena's friends was always with her. After several dates, it was John's turn to meet Hannah. After lunch, as expected, a serious conversation took place between John and Hannah. Hannah immediately went straight to the point and explained the conditions and rules of dating to John. John assured Hannah that his intentions were completely serious. At the end of the talk, Hannah told him that if he followed these rules, he could come there whenever he wanted with pleasure. John also took these rules very seriously and followed all of them. From the very beginning, he behaved like a gentleman and very soon gained the trust of Lorena and her family. After 10 months, John proposed to Lorena and she quickly accepted. Since childhood, Lorena had always wished to find her Prince Charming and start a family. The two married on June 18, 1989, coinciding with Lorena's 19th birthday. They promised each other to love each other until the end of their lives, and they also held a beautiful wedding ceremony afterward. The only thing that made this moment a little unpleasant was that the parents of this couple could not attend the ceremony. Although this wedding was not exactly the way Lorena had imagined, she was sure she had made the right decision. Besides, beside John, she felt independence and freedom. She strongly believed they could reach all their dreams together. After their honeymoon, they settled in a small and quiet town called Manassas in Virginia. The first weeks after their marriage went very well. Their life was like a real paradise. Perhaps that's why when the first serious conflict happened between Lorena and her husband, she was shocked. It all started when Lorena brought John a bowl of cold soup for lunch. John became very angry, insulted her, and said, "What is this trash you brought me? You don't even know how to cook." Lorena tried to explain to her husband that it was his fault, because when she called him, he didn't come to the table on time, and the food became cold. After hearing this, John became even angrier and yelled at her to shut her mouth and listen to him. On the other side, Lorena tried by speaking calmly to end the matter and reminded him that he should not speak to her like that, because she deserved respect as his wife. Unfortunately, these words had no effect. The small disagreement turned into a big fight. Insults turned to shouting, and finally verbal violence turned into physical violence. Even John and Lorena slapped each other several times. But after this fight, their conflict was temporarily resolved, and John soon apologized to Lorena. He tried to explain that he had a bad day and promised this would never happen again. But like many similar cases, there are boundaries that must not be crossed. John not only broke his promise many times, but also the violence became stronger and more frequent. Their conflicts also went beyond the walls of their house. As time passed, John became more and more aggressive, and Lorena more submissive and passive. Several years of their life passed in this tense atmosphere. The feelings between the couple gradually faded. John considered almost everything Lorena did as wrong. He controlled every step she took and didn't even let her meet anyone. Lorena also had to go home immediately after work. By 1993, Lorena had to put up with all sorts of unpleasant events. Her close friends tried to help her and encouraged her to ask police for help. They tried to make her understand that her relationship with John had long been unhealthy, but Lorena didn't seem to listen to others. On Friday, June 18, 1993, Lorena turned 23. She had spent the last 4 years in a marriage where a violent man constantly hurt her. A few days later, John met one of his old friends named Robert Johnson, and they decided to go to a bar in their area and have fun like old times. Lorena stayed home alone. She took the opportunity to do household chores in peace. After a few hours, she went to her room to sleep. That night, perhaps no one in that small town could guess what was going to happen. When John returned home, another conflict broke out in their house. The silence of that night was broken by the loud banging of the door. Lorena woke up startled. Before she realized what was happening, John angrily attacked her. He almost violently tore all of Lorena's clothes off her. Lorena begged him to stop, but he was determined to have sex with her by force. It seemed that John even enjoyed her resistance. Lorena resisted until the last moment, but in the end John overpowered her. After John reached his desire and raped her, as always, he immediately fell asleep. A few minutes later, Lorena got up from bed and went straight to the kitchen. With her bruised body and injured face, she went to drink some water. Suddenly, a knife caught her attention. The blade was long and the handle narrow, so Lorena could easily hold it in her hand. Without hesitation, she picked up the knife and went back to the bedroom. Lorena was determined she had to do something. Somehow she had to put an end to her husband's abuse. She had already promised herself that such things must not be repeated. A few moments later, Lorena pulled the sheet covering John's naked body aside, grabbed his genital organ with one hand, and with the other gave a quick and precise strike with the knife. Before continuing the story, please support us with like and subscribe. Thank you. John's scream shook the entire neighborhood. After doing this, Lorena quickly left the house. She got into her car and drove away at full speed. After a few streets, she stopped at a red light and suddenly realized she was holding something in her hand that didn't let her turn the wheel comfortably. She looked and saw she still had her husband's organ in her hand. That's when she realized what she had done. Immediately she rolled down the window and threw out the thing that symbolized all her humiliation. Then she continued her way and went to her friend's house. When she arrived, she told her everything. Her friend, realizing how serious the matter was, immediately called the police. Meanwhile, John was left at home, trying to stop the bleeding. He wrapped himself in a sheet and with difficulty went downstairs to wake his friend who had been staying there that night. Don't ask me why his friend didn't wake up with all that noise. I don't know either. After a while, his friend finally took him to the emergency room. Even for experienced doctors, the scene was very shocking. That's why they immediately called Dr. James and plastic surgeon David Berman. They realized that in order to perform the reattachment surgery, they had to find the severed organ. Police were searching for it when Lorena told them roughly where she had thrown it. After some searching, they found the organ near a grocery store. They placed it in a container full of ice and took it to the hospital. Lorena was also quickly arrested by police there. When they talked to her in the hospital, she told them about all the hardship she had endured over the years with John. She said her actions were not pre-planned. She had suddenly reached this decision. Lorena said she did it out of rage. One of her first words to police was that her husband was very selfish, always reaching orgasm himself and never caring about her pleasure. At that time, in the past 10 years in America, every year more than 1 million cases of domestic violence existed in which women were the victims. But many could not go and complain to police because if they did, usually others instead of supporting them would blame them. Lorena was no exception. When the media broadcast the story, some said she herself had caused this conflict. Of course, there were also those who supported her, saying she had done this under intense mental pressure. But John received the support of many men. Many thought this event might encourage other women to dare to do similar acts. In short, Dr. succeeded in performing the reattachment surgery successfully. His operation lasted about 9 hours and at that time was considered one of the most complex surgeries. Several months later, the trial of both was held. Lorena was tried for injuring her husband, and John for years of violence and abuse against his wife. In court, both revealed all the details of their married life. Lorena explained that for years she had been subjected to various violence and aggressive behaviors from John. She even said once John had gone so far as to almost kill her. She recounted how one day John had pressed his hand around her neck and had tried to strangle her, but luckily she had survived. One of the most emotional moments of the trial was when Lorena spoke about pregnancy. Despite all of John's violence, she always wished to be a mother. But when John found out she was pregnant, he told her she could not keep the baby and forced her to have an abortion. Lorena also talked about their financial problems. Their biggest problem was that John had no stable job. His income was low and unstable, and whatever he earned he spent on alcohol and his own entertainment. Moreover, he constantly borrowed money from Lorena. These things made many in the court understand how troubled their relationship was. Even the lawyers of both sides admitted that there was a lot of evidence of John's violent behavior toward Lorena. All this had created an atmosphere of tension in their life that one day finally led to a horrible incident. Lorena's lawyers argued that what she had done was the result of a temporary mental state in self-defense. One of her lawyers said Lorena, after years of enduring violence, had reached a point where she was no longer in control. According to them, that night she unconsciously decided to do this act. On the other side, John's trial was also held. John told several different stories of that night. At first he said when he came home, he had not had any relation with his wife. He even said Lorena had tried to seduce him, but because he was very tired and drunk, he immediately fell asleep. Later though, he admitted he had had sex with his wife, but claimed that at that moment he was almost asleep. In short, he denied almost all the accusations against him, but John and his lawyer could not present a strong defense for themselves. Nevertheless, in November 1993, John's court acquitted him. The jury, consisting of 9 women and 3 men, all voted in his favor, but 2 months later, Lorena's trial was held. She too was acquitted of all charges. The jury declared that at the time of the act, because of the bitter experiences she had endured in the past, Lorena was in a temporary mental state and could not be held responsible for her actions. The judge ordered Lorena to spend 45 days in Central State Psychiatric Hospital in Virginia for treatment. After finishing her treatment, she was released in March 1994. After her release, Lorena, in an interview with ABC News, said that both she and John were victims of a very bitter and tragic situation. But John, on the other hand, considered himself the only victim of this affair. He could not believe that Lorena was not punished for what she had done. Finally, in 1995, the two officially divorced. But apparently the media continued to be interested in their lives after this separation. John again entered another scandal, this time for assaulting his new fiancée, Christina Elliott. He went to court and was found guilty in many charges and sentenced to 15 days in jail. But it seemed John could not stay calm. Again, in another case, his name appeared. He and several others stole from a clothing store. And after arrest he was convicted again. Lorena, however, slowly rebuilt her life. She still worked in the beauty field and took more training. She decided to use her bitter experience to be useful for others. John too did not remain idle. After all his problems, He tried to appear in media across the country and talk about his life, trying to show another face besides aggressiveness and alcoholism. In 2007, Lorena managed to establish a charity foundation named Lorena's Red Wagon to help women who were victims of men's violence. It was as if the two were competing with each other, but on two different paths. On the other hand, John tried to earn money from his fame. He created a music group called Severed Parts. He even participated in a controversial but popular radio show hosted by Howard Stern. In that program, he talked about his life and about that surgery, which had gone extraordinarily well. After that, John signed a $1 million contract with a company for adult films. In the end, he even played the lead role himself in a porn movie called John Wayne Bobbitt Uncut. He later even tried to work as a comedian, but in none of these activities did he succeed. Finally, he was forced to work in construction. In 2009, Lorena appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show in the same year for the first time on television. She faced John again. In that program, John used the opportunity to apologize to Lorena for all the things he had done to her. In 2014, Lorena married again and became a mother. In an interview with a Spanish-American program called Wake Up America, she spoke about the incident that changed her life. She said she was very regretful of what she had done, and that if circumstances had been different, she would never have done such a thing. She also jokingly said that her new husband was not afraid of her at all and slept peacefully beside her. Lorena still works in the beauty field and still manages her foundation, but in 2018, on the 25th anniversary of this case, the media again became interested in the story. In an interview with the New York Times, Lorena said she still suffers from the memories of that bitter night. John, meanwhile, because of some strange issues, again was in the headlines. An infection that had reached his toe forced its partial amputation. In an exclusive interview with a BC News, John claimed that Lorena was a selfish person and had only married him to get residency. He also said Lorena's student visa was about to expire, and she pressured John to marry her. In addition, John claimed that Lorena financially pressured him, although at the end of their marriage, it was Lorena who was bearing more of the costs. Nevertheless, he still denied the claims of domestic violence and said it was Lorena who sometimes even beat him. And when Lorena found out John wanted to leave her, she went after him with a knife. At the end of 2022, Lorena and John's story again became the center of attention. This time, a documentary about their lives was released on Amazon Prime, which again brought different discussions and reactions. Although Lorena was not the only one who had taken such revenge, she became the most famous among them all. The uniqueness of her case was that because of the constant stress she had endured, she was not held responsible for her actions. There are also a few other similar cases. For example, in April 2008, a female doctor from Pakistan did such a thing to her lover after finding out he wanted to marry another woman. In July of the same year, a woman named Catherine Q. Becker drugged her husband, tied his hands and feet, then cut off part of his genitals and threw it into the trash can. On October 5, 2017, in Colombia, a similar event happened. A woman saw her husband with another woman. A few days earlier, she had found naked pictures of that woman in his phone for punishing her husband. When they were having sex, she picked up a surgical blade and cut his genitals. Unlike Lorena, all the women involved in these cases were arrested and sentenced to punishment.
Okay, let's unpack this. Tonight, we're diving into a story that, well, it really gripped at the world, didn't it? Sparked countless debates and just refused to fade away.
Absolutely. It's a case packed with Just astonishing details.
Yeah, and profound questions, too, about justice, victimhood, and, the breaking point. Our mission tonight is to take this stack of sources we have, really dissect the full narrative of the Lorena Bobbitt story, and uncover the most important nuggets of insight for you.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Well, let's begin with the origins, how these two very different worlds collided. Lorena Lourdes Gallo, born in Ecuador in 1970.
Right, but she grew up mostly in Venezuela, then came to the U.S. at 18, full of hope, looking for opportunities.
She stayed with a family friend, Hannah, and it was quite strict, wasn't it?
Very strict rules, yeah. But Lorena was determined. She got a student visa, learned manicure at Hannah's salon. The sources mention this family value of earning an honest living. That seemed really important to her.
And nights out were rare, a big deal for her.
Oh, definitely. Exciting, but always with Hannah's warnings in the back of her mind.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? This young woman, driven, looking for stability, maybe a bit vulnerable.
I think that's fair to say. Her desire for a better life maybe made her, well, perhaps overlook some early red flags when she met John. She was searching for that Prince Charming.
Okay, so that's Lorena's journey. Let's pivot to John Wayne Bobbitt. A very different story.
Very different. Born in Buffalo, New York, 1967. His early life had significant upheaval.
Right. His mother had a nervous breakdown, and he went to live with his aunt and uncle.
He and his brothers, just 3 years old. It was a religious home, described as stable, but that early disruption, well, it likely had an impact.
And then the Marines.
Yes, as an adolescent. The sources really emphasize how the training, discipline, lifestyle, and challenges there shaped him.
So two people from completely different worlds. Then comes the fateful meeting.
Right. One of Lorena's rare nights out, she's, the sources say, completely shocked by the beauty of the place, thinking about finding the man of her dreams.
And John sees her.
Sees her, is astonished by her beauty, and decides to, quote, reach his target, like military operation. That phrasing is quite something.
Wow, okay. So they talk all night.
Share their life stories, yeah. And the next day, John calls. He's very clear about wanting to pursue things.
And he even meets the strict Hannah.
He does. Assures her he's completely serious, follows all her rules meticulously, earns everyone's trust.
That's quite the effort.
It worked. After just 10 months, he proposes.
And Lorena accepts quickly.
Yeah, she'd always wanted that Prince Charming family. They married on her 19th birthday, June 18th, 1989.
19, so young.
Very young. She felt this new sense of independence and freedom with him, believed they could build their dreams together in Manassas, Virginia.
You can see how the ideal was built up, especially for her, looking for stability.
And John's approach, earning Hannah's trust, the serious intentions, it seems very calculated in retrospect. Yep. It disarmed potential protectors.
So the wedding happens. And those first few weeks...
Our sources say it was like a real paradise.
Much. That didn't last.
No. The first serious conflict wasn't far behind. Over cold soup, of all things.
Cold soup.
Seriously.
John gets angry, insults her cooking, yells, "What is this trash you brought me?"
And Lorena?
She tries to explain. He says it's his fault for being late, reminds him she deserves respect.
Which just made him angrier.
Even angrier, yes. Tells her to shut her mouth. It escalates quickly.
From insults.
To shouting, then verbal violence, and finally physical violence. Both of them slapped each other, according to the accounts.
And then the apology.
Blames a bad day, promises this would never happen again.
That pattern, it's chillingly familiar in these cases, isn't it? How quickly paradise turns.
It really is, and the sources state he broke his promise many times. The violence got stronger and more frequent. And it wasn't just at home.
No, it extended beyond that. He became more and more aggressive, and she became more submissive and passive. The feelings just gradually faded.
Control becomes a big theme too, right?
Huge. He controlled every step she took. Couldn't meet anyone, had to come straight home from work. Classic isolation tactics.
Did anyone try to help? Her friends?
By 1993, yes. Close friends urged her to go to the police, tried to tell her the relationship was unhealthy.
And she didn't listen.
The sources say she didn't seem to listen.
Why is that? Why is it so hard for victims, even when people are telling them to break free?
Well, it's complex. There's often deep psychological conditioning. That cycle of abuse violence followed by apologies creates this really confusing mix of hope and fear. Plus, the isolation, the erosion of self-esteem, victims often start believing it's somehow their fault. It makes it incredibly difficult to internalize warnings or even imagine a way out. especially when the abuser has dismantled their support system.
Which brings us to that night, June 19th, 1993.
Just days after her 23rd birthday. She'd been married 4 years to, as the sources put it, a violent man who constantly hurt her.
John had gone out with a friend.
Yes, leaving her home alone. She did chores, went to bed.
And then he comes home.
Loudly. Bangs the door, wakes her up, startled, and then he angrily attacked her.
The sources are graphic, tearing off her clothes.
Yes, she bugged him to stop, but he was determined to have sex with her by force, even seemed to enjoy her resistance.
He overpowered her, raped her.
That's what the testimony states. And afterwards, as always, he immediately fell asleep.
It's after that the story takes this incredibly sharp turn. The sources talk about her state being almost dissociative. What does that mean psychologically?
Dissociation in this context, it's like a mental detachment from reality. It's a coping mechanism for trauma that's just overwhelming. You might feel like you're watching yourself from outside or operating on autopilot. Rational thought kind of breaks down under the weight of the fear, the pain, the cumulative abuse.
So minutes later, she gets up, bruised, injured, goes to the kitchen.
For water, initially. But then a knife caught her attention. The description is specific. Long blade and narrow handle, easy to hold.
And she picks it up.
Without hesitation. The sources say she was determined to do something to end the abuse, having promised herself such things must not be repeated.
She goes back to the bedroom,
Pulls back the sheet, covering John's naked body, grabs his penis, and makes a quick and precise strike with the knife.
The desperation in that moment, it's hard to comprehend, but it connects to what experts later called battered woman syndrome.
Exactly. That concept tries to explain how prolonged abuse can fundamentally alter a victim's perception of danger and their capacity for self-defense. Their reality is shaped by constant trauma.
What happens immediately after? Chaos, I assume.
Complete chaos. John's scream shook the entire neighborhood. Lorena flees.
Gets in her car, drives off at full speed.
Right. And it's only when she stopped at a red light that she suddenly realized she was holding something. Still in her hand. That's when the full weight of what she had done seems to hit her.
And she throws it out the window.
Immediately. The source describes it as the thing that symbolized all her humiliation. Then she drives to a friend's house, tells her everything.
And the friend calls the police.
Instantly. Meanwhile, John, wrapped in a sheet, gets to the ER.
The doctors must have been shocked.
Very shocking is the phrase used. They call in specialists, Dr. James, the plastic surgeon, David Berman. They realize reattachment is possible, but...
Need the organ.
Exactly. The police are searching. Lorena tells them roughly where she threw it.
And they find it. Near a grocery store.
Yes. Put her on ice, rushed her to the hospital. Lorena, of course, was quickly arrested.
What did she tell the police initially?
She talked about the years of hardship with John. Insisted it wasn't premeditated, just a sudden decision born of rage.
And she mentioned his selfishness.
Yes, one of her first words was about him always reaching orgasm himself, never caring about her pleasure. It's a striking detail.
The media reaction must have been immediate and intense.
Oh, absolutely. And it instantly highlighted this huge issue. Domestic violence was rampant, over 1 million cases a year in the U.S. then, mostly women victims, but victims often face blame. Lorena's story became a flashpoint. Some blamed her, others saw her as a victim pushed too far.
And men rallied around John.
Many did, yes. There was this fear, the sources note, that it might encourage copycat acts. It really tapped into anxieties about gender roles.
And the surgery.
It was successful. Took about 9 hours. Considered incredibly complex for the time.
So this sets the stage for the trials. 2 separate trials.
Months later, yes. Lorena tried for injuring her husband. John tried for the years of abuse against her.
And they both testified, laid out the details of the marriage.
They did. Lorena described years of violence, aggression. She recounted a specific terrifying incident where he tried to strangle her.
She survived that attempt.
Luckily, yes. And one of the most emotional parts of her testimony was about pregnancy.
She wanted the baby.
Despite the violence, yes. But John forced her to have an abortion. She also detailed the financial problems, his lack of work, spending on alcohol, borrowing money from her.
Her defense.
Her lawyers argued it was a temporary mental state in self-defense, that the years of violence meant she wasn't in control, acted unconsciously. This is where battered woman syndrome really entered the public consciousness. Its success in her case was pretty groundbreaking legally. It recognized the psychological impact of that sustained abuse.
What about John's defense?
It was. Inconsistent. He told several different stories about that night.
Like what?
First, he denied any sex happened, claimed she tried to seduce him, but he was too tired and drunk. Later, he admitted sex, but said he was almost asleep.
Did he deny the abuse allegations?
Denied almost all of them. The sources say he could not present a strong defense.
So the verdicts, they were stunning, really.
Absolutely. The contrasting interpretations were stark. First, John's trial in November 93.
Acquitted by a jury of 9 women and 3 men.
All voted in his favor, yes. Then, just 2 months later, January 94, Lorena's trial.
Also acquitted.
Yes. The jury found that because of the past trauma, she was in a temporary mental state and couldn't be held responsible.
But she had to go to a psychiatric hospital.
For 45 days, yes, for evaluation and treatment. She was released in March 1994.
These acquittals, they forced a huge national conversation, didn't they? About battered woman syndrome, about responsibility.
Definitely. The term gained massive public recognition because of this case. It challenged everything about how people thought about self-defense and victimhood in abuse cases.
Okay, so they're both acquitted. What happens next?
Divorce.
Officially divorced in 1995. Their reactions were telling, though.
How so?
Lorena told ABC News they were both victims of a very bitter and tragic situation. John, however, saw himself as the only victim, couldn't believe she wasn't punished.
Their lives after that went in wildly different directions.
Dramatically so. John's path went downhill pretty quickly. More legal trouble, assaulting a new fiancée, theft charges. And he tried to cash in on the fame.
Relentlessly. Formed a band called Severed Parts, went on Howard Stern, starred in adult films like John Wayne Bobbitt Uncut. Tried comedy.
Did any of it work?
Not really. Sources say he did not succeed and ended up back in construction work. He even made headlines in 2018 for a toe amputation due to an infection.
And he kept talking about Lorena.
Oh yeah. In that 2018 ABC interview, he called her selfish, claimed she married him for residency, denied the abuse, and even accused her of hitting him.
Wow. Such a contrast to Lorena's path.
A stark contrast. What does her journey tell us about resilience after trauma, especially compared to John?
It's quite remarkable, isn't it? She slowly rebuilt her life, kept working in the beauty field, got more training.
But more than that, she chose to use her experience to help others.
Right. The foundation, Lorena's Red Wagon, started in 2007.
To help women victims of violence. Then, in 2009, she appeared on Oprah.
And faced John again.
Yes. He actually apologized to her on the show.
Did she find happiness later?
Seems so. She remarried in 2014, became a mother. She told Wake Up America she regretted the act, wouldn't have done it under different circumstances.
And she joked about her new husband?
Yeah, jokingly said he was not afraid of her at all and slept peacefully beside her. She still works, runs her foundation.
But the memories linger.
In 2018, she told the New York Times she still suffers from the memories of that bitter night. Her journey really shows incredible resilience, turning tragedy into advocacy.
Lorena's story is unique, but she wasn't the only woman to commit such an act, was she?
No, but she became the most famous. The uniqueness, the source's stress, was the legal outcome being found not responsible due to the sustained stress and trauma.
There were other cases.
Several mentioned. Pakistan in 2008, Catherine Q. Becker in California also in 2008, Colombia in 2017. Women attacking partners or ex-partners in similar ways.
But the outcomes were different.
Critically different. Unlike Lorena, these other women were arrested and sentenced. It really highlights how specific Lorena's circumstances were, the documented abuse, the successful temporary mental state defense.
It raises huge questions about justification, how the law measures trauma.
Exactly. And the public fascination hasn't really died down. That 2022 Amazon Prime documentary brought it all back again.
Which tells us what? About why we're still so captivated.
I think it tells us the conversation about extreme violence, domestic abuse, victimhood, agency. It's far from resolved. It shows how legal shifts influence public understanding and how these narratives keep evolving.
What a deep dive. Just wow. Uncovering all these layers decades later, it still resonates, still makes you think.
From their individual stories, the shocking act itself, those unique verdicts based on psychological understanding.
And then their completely different lives afterwards. It forces you to confront some really difficult truths about relationships, justice, trauma.
The scars it leaves.
Absolutely. So, thinking about all the media, the groundbreaking legal results for both of them, what conversation should this case still be sparking today?
That's the key question, isn't it?
About how domestic violence awareness continues to evolve, how complex victimhood really is, and maybe most importantly, that ongoing challenge of finding true justice for people pushed right to their absolute limit.